Well, here's a thing. We pretty much know the NHS is useless. It's broken. The current Health Secretary Wes Streeting says he's going to fix it. He hasn't so far, not showing any signs that he will either. It's useless, it's a mess. So by extension, the person running it, the chief executive, is also pretty useless. And indeed, Amanda Pritchard redefines the term useless. Absolutely hopeless. She took over this job in 2021. The Labour clearly want to try to do something, and they don't think she's the one to help them achieve their goals. Now, the thing is, she's been paid since 2020 £270,000 a year to be the chief executive of the useless NHS, and has presided over catastrophic decline, rocketing waiting lists, and less and less efficiency, people dying in corridors on trolleys, etc., etc. You know what we're talking about. Anyway, she, I think probably with some pressure from the government, she's decided to step down. She's resigning. Okay, fine, good, give someone else a go. But she's going to receive, after resigning, £112,500 payoff, £112,500 as a payoff. Now, that's all right if your bosses want you to go. Look, here's a redundancy deal. Look, you're going to go, but we're going to get rid of you, but we obviously owe you compensation. Here's the offer, whatever. But when you resign, well, you know, why would, if you're quitting, why would you get £112,500? Why would you get that? Let's talk to, he takes a great interest in health matters. He's a Reform UK councillor, very young councillor up in Lincolnshire, Oliver Freeston. Welcome back to the show, Oliver.
Hi, Kevin. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
Good to have you. What do you make of this? I mean, you know, I'm glad she's going because, you know, she's the latest in a long line of not very good NHS chief executives. The NHS has been in a state of disastrous decline for a long time, and by extension the people running this organisation can't have been very good at the job. So it's not just her, but she in particular has been seen as just a sort of pen pusher who was way out of her depth. All she's ever done is other sort of public sector jobs within the health service, have gradually risen up the ranks, got the big gig, 270 grand a year, now quitting. Why on earth is she getting £112,000, £112,500 payoff? Why?
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? It's almost like failure is rewarded, and certainly in the NHS, they see public money as growing on trees, and of course that's not how it is. And in proper businesses that were run to be efficient, that wouldn't be the case. But of course, this is public money, and people like to spend that willy-nilly. Well, that needs to change. We can't continue in that vein anymore.
Yeah, as I say, but this goes against the normal rules of employment. If your bosses want to get rid of you, you know, lay you off, sack you, make you redundant, as long as you haven't done anything wrong, of course the rules are, listen, we need you to go, here's the offer. And then, you know, often people turn around and say, we'll double it or something like that. You know, you arrive at an agreed sum because you're not leaving voluntarily. If you resign voluntarily, the system is you don't get any compensation, obviously. I mean, I can't turn around to my bosses tomorrow and say, yeah, listen, I'm going to quit talk, so can you give me £100,000, please? Why is this happening?
It's the tail wagging the dog, isn't it? It's civil service all over. And again, that isn't how it should be run. And the politician should be the one that's in charge. But of course, we've seen Steve Barclay, we've now seen Wes Streeting issue the orders that there should be no DEI roles employed, any new ones. But of course, those hiring has still continued. Now, we're told that Wes Streeting hadn't reversed Steve Barclay's policy, but I think that's in like 2023. We've still got around 800 roles costing £40 million a year. So, as I say, it's tail wagging the dog, and that isn't how it should be. And that's why we need real leadership. And I was hopeful that when Wes Streeting came in, he's probably about the only one on the front bench for Labour that's got something about him. But even he is realising just how ingrained the NHS are and the people who are running it. Well, we do need leadership change, and that's positive.
Yeah, the Public Accounts Committee in Parliament said that Amanda Pritchard, and her deputy, Julian Kelly, and 2 other senior civil servants at the Department of Health and Social Care were, and I quote, complacent and lacked dynamism. That does seem to characterise her leadership of the NHS, doesn't it?
It's damning, isn't it? You look at a few of the decisions, certainly since COVID. This woman has been in charge since the COVID days, and so many decisions have cost lives, have cost money, and the waiting times have gone up. If you go to the hospital, you're waiting longer than you were 10 years ago. So ultimately, we do need change, and I think we need to be progressive. There's no point in continuing arcing back to the bad days. Let's see what the new leadership can bring. I think the person they've employed now temporarily is a chap from Newcastle who's in charge of one of the trusts there. And certainly he's got a track record of turning things round. He's gone from the NHS Trust, which was required improvement when he first joined. The CQC have now lifted that. So again, I'm an optimist, so I like to look forward and support people who are taking over.
The problem is, though, and I agree with you about Wes Streeting, of a bad bunch, he's one of the better cabinet ministers, cabinet secretaries, and he certainly said a few things that sound quite encouraging. And of course, like all health secretaries, he arrived, I will fix the broken NHS. They all say that. He's the latest in a long list. They come in talking about the broken NHS, and usually within about a year, it's them that are broken, broken by this massive bureaucratic behemoth. That is out of control, uncontrollable. But when I hear Wes Streeting saying, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to get to grips with it, it needs top to bottom, root and branch reform, etc., etc. It's fairly obvious to me where he should start. The 3,500 middle managers who earn £100,000 or more. There's something like 2,000 earn sort of £150,000 or more a year. These are not medically qualified people. These are people who do pen-pushing jobs. So I would humbly suggest, I'll guarantee you could get rid of probably out of 3,500, let's be generous, about 3,300, you could get rid of them tomorrow and it wouldn't make much difference. So that would save a vast amount of money, zillions. And another thing they could do that Wes Streeting should be looking at is doing something about the grotesque, the obscene amount of money wasted on diversity. They've got 800 diversity officers in the NHS, who, last time I looked, do nothing about treating patients or helping to cure patients. And that costs £40 million a year. And we learnt today yet more jobs, be another 200 grand's worth of diversity jobs being advertised for in the NHS. Wes Streeting doesn't seem to be getting to grips with these basic details. He should be doing something about this, but he's not. He's just faffing around the edges, talking about there being too many appointments and, artificially talking about getting the waiting list down. He's not going for the right targets in terms of making the NHS more efficient, is he?
No, but what you've got to remember, Kevin, is that Wes Streeting is constrained by the members, by his own MPs in the Labour Party, who ideologically believe in these diversity and inclusion roles. So he is constrained, but ultimately we do need to scrap them because, as you say, they're not actually benefiting the patients themselves. All it's doing is creating extra work, more regulations, which makes the lives of frontline staff more difficult. Indeed, when you speak to nurses and doctors and surgeons, they will tell you what they need, how to diagnose and fix the problem. But it's almost as if politicians, for such a long time, don't actually get to the root cause of it because they focus on policies that sound nice, they're inclusive, but that's not what we need. We need real change, like in America where they've got DOGE, where they've got the Department of Government Efficiency. We need to We need to go in. We don't just need to fix the NHS. We need open heart surgery, if you excuse the pun. It needs real change.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Something dramatic. So we need a health secretary to come in and say, I'm really going to sort this out. There are a number of pretty basic, easy things they could do. Reduce the vast number of staff doing non-medical jobs, clearly. And he also made a statement, old Wes Streeting. He wrote a piece in The Sun, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, where he said he was going to dispense with the daft, I'm using his expression, the daft wokery that infests the NHS. So I said, well, OK, that's a good idea. I mean, what I'm talking about there, Oliver, is things like the NHS producing, 90-page pamphlet guides for mothers, pregnant mothers, without ever mentioning the word woman or mother, and describing women as people who menstruate as opposed to describing them as women or females, that kind of nonsense. So I said, look, here's a good, if he wants to set down a marker to say, I'm going to return the NHS from the mad world of wokery to the wonderful world of common sense, here's an idea. Make this announcement. From now on, men who go for x-rays will no longer statutorily be asked by NHS staff, are you pregnant? That is a compulsory question. So if you or me go to get an x-ray, because if we're pregnant, it's a very valid question, obviously, to women, pregnant women, or to women, because if you are pregnant, the gamma rays, the x-rays, could damage your unborn child. So, very valid question to women, a ridiculous, ludicrous question to men. As I always say, I kind of want that to happen. It's never happened to me, but if I do go to the NHS for an x-ray and they say, are you pregnant? My reply will be, take a wild guess. I mean, my colleague, friend and colleague, James Whale, so you know what James Whale looks like,
Yes.
Bald, bloke.
And
he's obviously undergoing cancer treatment at the moment, so he has to go for lots of x-rays every single time. He said, that he gets asked, are you pregnant? He goes, stop asking me if I'm pregnant. So a good way to start, if Wes Streeting wants to set down a marker, we're going to return to the world of common sense. Stop asking men if they're pregnant. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's been going on for some time. I think it was down in Plymouth or around the area, where instead of being called mothers and fathers, it was now birthing parent and non-birthing parent. It's just ridiculous. And as you say, it has infested the NHS. And even people say, oh, that's small, that's not going to, save lives or make that many efficiencies. But it's like the broken windows theory. If you look after the little things, show everybody that actually we're reverting back to common sense, everybody will start to make improvements, and people will have confidence and faith in the changes that you're trying to deliver. So certainly he's got an uphill battle, but he's got to get real with his own MPs, and that's going to be a battle for himself. Yeah,
and to go back to the original talking point, Oliver, you're right. The Amanda Pritchard, I resign. Oh, yeah, OK, then. Oh, I thought we got. So you notice. Oh, here's £112,000. That is, typical casual laxity, isn't it, with public money? That's our money in the end. The way they do this is disgraceful, really, isn't it?
Well, the problem is, of course, it's not even just the payout. She was paid for being a failure. She was paid more than the Prime Minister. Now, I'm not advocating for a pay increase for Keir Starmer by any stretch, but it certainly seems wrong that the Chief Executive of the NHS is paid more than the leader of our country. And indeed, what's worse than that is the NHS Diversity SAR is paid even more than her. I think it was about £230,000 for a diversity SAR.
Sorry, the NHS has got a diversity czar.
Yeah.
God.
You've heard it all.
Honestly, Oliver, you're young. You're a dynamic politician. You've got to sort the world out because it is going crazy. Really good to talk to you. Come on again very soon. Oliver Freeston there, Reform UK councillor up there in Lincolnshire. Good guy.